Hello, welcome to Keep Your Children Safe, brought to you by INTV. I'm Pastor Ben Schaefer. Joining me on the program today are two members of the Fulton County Sheriffs Office. They are to my right, Chief Deputy Roy Miller, and to my left, Agent Allesandra Norden. Agent Norden is also a member of the FBI Violent Crimes Against Children Task Force. Recently, it was brought to my attention that two young children in our area were allegedly sexually molested. The Church of the Master has a mentoring program for young children, so we asked Agent Norden to do a presentation for them to help make them aware of the dangers and to keep them safe. Crimes against children is a growing problem, even in a rural area like we live in. My goal for this program is to make you as parents and grandparents more aware of these issues so we can keep our children safe. I have to warn you that the language may be graphic. The things we talk about may be a little bit hard to take, but they're real. They are happening today. My suggestion is that you parents watch the show first and then watch it with your children, or as parts, whatever parts you might feel that your children should have. I'd like to begin with the issue of sex trafficking. The Toledo Blade ran an expose a year or two ago on the extent of this problem in Northwest Ohio. Toledo has been called by one federal investigator the #1 teen prostitution location in America. It is home to 1,000 victims of sex trafficking. The victims are mostly American-born girls and range from 12 to 17 years old. So Alex, I know you've worked pretty extensively with the sex trafficking part of it. What is sex trafficking?
Sex trafficking is when someone coerces, for instance, the pimp. He coerces children. And you know, a lot of people think when we see a woman and they call her right away a prostitute, when she's in front of a judge, you know, she's a prostitute, she should be punished. Little that everyone knows that this adult victim, we call him victim, that is a prostitute, that she was actually trafficked since she was, you know, a young girl. It's not like somebody can just go and say, okay, these girls don't just go and say, let me put an application in to be a prostitute, okay? A lot of times the pimps, they drug them, and most of the times I should say, they drug them with heroin, crack cocaine, so they're not never in a clear mind when they do this because they do feel ashamed. They feel very low about themselves, they don't feel loved, everybody forgot them. And sex trafficking, you know, what we do with the Violent Crime Against Children Task Force, what our main focus is, and we're with the FBI, like you mentioned it earlier. We're members from the FBI, the Lima office PD, the Toledo PD, Fulton County, of course, Ottawa Sheriff's Office, BCI&I, and Perrysburg Township. We're a group, and our main focus is to try to arrest as many pimps, round up as many pimps, victims, you know, prostitutes, in Johns, and hoping to find children in that whole thing, because you know, children are our futures, and children, you know, as I always tell parents, you put them on this earth with the help of God, you know, it's our responsibility to raise these children in a healthy, you know, home. And a lot of times children, they get, you know, they don't have the healthy home. They don't have what we would think, you know, we as parents think, you know, they have it all. Children don't have it all. A lot of times what children need is love.
Right. And
a lot of times parents don't say that enough. So sex trafficking is when someone gets coerced to do something they don't want to do, okay?
Let me interrupt you just for a second here. I think probably everybody understands the some of the terms you're using, but just in case there isn't, explain what you mean by a pimp and I mean, I think everybody knows what a prostitute is.
A pimp is someone that lures the children in, okay? Lures to do the sex act. Coerce them by beating them, forcing them, starving them. A lot of them are starved. I mean, when we find these children, they don't have, you know, they ask for a cracker, you know, and I'm like, how long has it been since you ate? And then sometimes they tell me 3 days, so I get them more than just a cracker. So a pimp is a very violent person. You know, why do you want to do that? You know, why do you want to shoot heroin into these girls' arm, or, you know, between their toes, you know, when their veins shut down, even in their eyelids, just to perform the sex act? Okay, just to perform the sexual abuse. And Johns are the customers. The customers. You know, I blame a lot of Johns for it because my beliefs, and I know from the task force beliefs to all the members, we really care about children. We really do, and the sheriff's office as well. My belief is if the John wouldn't dial that number, the pimp wouldn't send a child out there to be. Because you see, the John calls and he will say, I want someone that looks like she's 16 years old, well-built or flat, you know, no breasts, whatever, long hair, dark hair. He pretty much makes his own, you know, he's ordering, you know, a girl. So the pimp will charge you more for a little girl than for an adult because the adult is pretty much, you know, wore out, and she, you know, a lot of guys just don't want that. For some reason, these Johns, they just want children. And I'm sure Chief Deputy Miller will tell you more about, you know, what he has to talk about, the sex offender and stuff like that.
Well, how does this, you know, I'm sure the question is going to come up. You know, we live in a rural area. You know, how does this affect us in the rural area? Why are we talking about this today?
A lot of us think, you know, it only happens in the city, like, you know, Toledo, Las Vegas, Chicago, New York, big cities. That's where all the casinos are and everything else that, you know, massage parlor and all that. No, it doesn't. It happens in the rural area. For instance, a couple of years ago, the task force did an operation in cross country. That's what the FBI puts that together. It comes from headquarters. And it puts this together, and we did actually in the rural. It wasn't even in town of Delta or in town of Fayette. It was in the country. It was a secluded home, and it was a migrant farm. And we got actually out of that whole operation. We got 7 children. We saved 7 children. It's so much easier for a pimp to go out in the country to sell his crack cocaine, and to, you know, sell these girls because they know in the city we have a lot of cops. I mean, there's a lot of police officers. In the county, there isn't. So they make sure they check the area out. They're pretty, you know, I wouldn't say smart because I don't call them smart what they're doing, but they'll check their area out. They scope everything out, and then when they see a secluded area, you know, they know when the sheriff's deputies or you know, a police officer comes by and how often. I mean, they time everything, and it's perfect. No one sees them, nobody complains, and you know, and of course, we live in the country, and you know, a lot of people are not used to prostitution around here. But don't forget, prostitution has been around since the beginning of time.
Right.
It's always been around. It's just, it's getting worse now. It's not just from adult girls that are victim, ladies, women, but it's children now, and that's really disgusting.
How are the victims selected, Alex?
Victims are selected. I always tell everyone, friends, the deputies at my office, anyone, you know, just since it's summer, the kids are out and about, parents are working. This is 2011. There's a lot of, you know, working couples, and the children are sometimes left alone at home. So when you leave them alone at home, what do? They hang out with their friends, especially if they live in town, or they're on the internet. And that's very dangerous, especially the internet. They're selected when the pimp, like when the girls go to the mall, the pimp knows exactly who he's gonna lure. And it's usually the girl that has low self-esteem. When she walks by a pimp, she won't look up. I mean, a lot of girls, you pay attention sometimes, and I want parents to pay attention. When women or girls that have, you know, low self-esteem and they don't, you know, they don't think, it's just they're shy, okay? They walk by a man, they won't look at him. And the pimp knows, this is it, I can work with her. And then he starts telling her she looks good. Hey, you're good looking, you know. I saw it in the mall. I mean, I sit sometimes there just to watch. And it's very, you know, the mall is an educational place sometimes, trust me. You see a lot of things.
Well, it's interesting because I'm a people watcher myself. I mean, I love to go to the mall and watch. If my wife goes in a shop, I might just sit and watch people. And after we talked the other day, you know, I don't think I'll ever go to a mall the same again because I have watched people that, looking back, were probably trying to get girls for the sex trade.
And you know, a lot of people think the pimp looks like in the 70s, big head, blink, blink, these, you know, and then he walks, you know, it's not that, it's not that. The pimp can look like just you and me. There's women pimps, they do the same thing. Pimp is a very violent person, first of all. You know, just to add that, he beats them, he cuts them. I talked to one of the victims before. I had to take pictures of her. And anytime somebody gets arrested, or you know, we found someone, we have to take pictures of their tattoos if they have a tattoo. The pimps mark their victims, okay, they're girls. I mean, he puts their name on it, or some nickname, and then if another pimp sees that, they know, oh, she's taken, unless he wants to sell her or trade her. It's a big, you know, trademark. So the pimp knows what to do. Like right now, summer, swimming pool. Obviously, school is out. Swimming pool, mall, any shopping center, anywhere where children gather, could be the park. You know, they know if they need somebody new, they know exactly where to go. Internet, Facebook, MySpace, MocoSpace, and I brought some information that parents actually can download for free or even buy that actually blocks all that stuff. It can check, you know, when parents are not home, you know, have like a timer on it that the children don't go to on a porn site, the pornography site, or a chat room without their parents' permission. So anywhere, pretty much anywhere. Right now, the pimps, what they're doing is they have girls and they're teenagers. They actually enroll them in a school just to make friends. So they make friends, and about a month later, 2 months later, the girl asks, hey, you want to spend the night, you know, at my house? Well, the girl was like, well, I got to ask my parents. Well, what do the parents do? A good parent says, I need to meet the parent. Yeah. They actually come to your house and they meet you, and he just looks nice and very, you know, polite and all that stuff, because they're very good manipulators, okay? So he comes over the house, introduce him to mom and dad. You know, I will bring her back. You don't have to worry about it. My wife or I are always there. They're never alone. And guess what? So the weekend passes. So the girl goes on Friday evening, you know, to spend the weekend with this family, alleged family. And then by Sunday night, the little girl is not back home yet. By then, the pimp already crossed states with her. And here it is, you know, she's gone. Our task force, the Violent Crime Against Children Task Force, we recovered in Toledo already 80 children that were missing, that were exploited to sex trafficking and cohorts. They were missing for months, even years. One of them was from Texas. We found her in Toledo. I mean, this is really good, and it's a great feeling to find children, you know, and especially, I mean, how would you feel if your child or granddaughter is gone and it's a void, it's a hole. You can't fill that hole unless you know where your children's are.
Well, I think one of the articles I read in preparation for this mentioned an operation in Pennsylvania. I don't remember if it was a city, and I don't remember if they mentioned the city, but in Pennsylvania, and there were a large number of girls, 75, 80 girls that were from the Toledo area. In fact, 17, 18 of the pimps were from Toledo.
Right. And that's the origin cities. Here we come again. Right. The pimp recruits the girls from Toledo and then takes them everywhere. Origin city, where the pimp is from. And he just, like I said, if anyone knows anything about narcotics, drugs like heroin, crack cocaine, cocaine, they know once you're hooked, you're hooked. You can't say, hey, I'm going to get clean, because it's not happening in a week. It's not going to happen in a week. First of all, you're going to really want to do it. It's like starting to smoke and wanting to quit. But when you're hooked on narcotics, and he loves it. The thing is with these girls, the pimp promises them on the internet. Let's talk a little bit about the internet.
Yeah.
When he promised these girls, he meets them online. He's not going to tell these girls, hey, I'm a 32-year-old man, or I'm a 40, or I'm a 56, whatever-year-old man. He's going to tell them, I'm 15 years old. Yeah. So what does a lot of girls do when they get upset at mom and dad?
Go online.
Go online, and what do they do in the chat room? Oh, I'm so ticked off at my mom and dad. You know, they won't let me go to a party, no sleepover, I'm grounded again. Oh, I hate this life. Girls love drama. Drama. It's a thing, right, Chief? It's a drama thing. You know, like, oh, she has blonde hair, you have dark hair, she has more than I do. So girls are very compatible. Not just boys, girls are. So they're online, and guess what? The pimp is back there enjoying everything he reads. So then he makes friends with them and starts chatting and tell them, oh boy, you know, I did the same thing. I have to say, you know, I know what you're going through. And they sympathize with these children. And they tell these children, you know, after a while, if you ever need a place, dude, you know, you come and stay with me. My parents don't mind. I got cool parents. I don't have, you know, a lot of times he tells me he has the same parents, you know, he has the same thing that they're going through. And then a lot of times says, in my house, I don't have no rules. You can come and stay, you can do whatever you want to, you can stay out till 1 o'clock in the morning, you can smoke, you can drink. My parents are cool, they even party with me. Oh, what kind of parents are those, right? No one wants to party with your parents, no way. But they say that. And when they say that, guess what? This girl that right now, that's why I always say, tell your children you love them. And you scold them for a reason, okay? It's important. They need to feel the love. They need to show, parents need to show that they love their children. And when they see that somebody else, girls fall in love with that typing on the screen, that black typing, you know, hey, you're cool. Oh, I love your picture. Gosh, you got beautiful eyes. Guess what? Girls fall in love with everything. I mean, and that's how he lures them in. And a lot of girls run away. And then they go to this guy. Little to find out, he's going to say, hey, my dad's going to pick you up. He's cool. Don't worry about it. Get in the car. Guess what? The girls get in the car.
Yeah.
I mean.
It's interesting. We talk about unlikely people. You know, that you can't really, I don't think you can really profile who is going to be a sex offender like this. Just in the last few weeks, there was a thing in the paper about an Amish young man who went online, thought he was talking to a 12-year-old girl, which he was originally, but then she was smart enough to turn him into her parents, and they got the police involved.
And that's good. That's why I say always talk to your children. Always tell them what's right and wrong, you know, what you shouldn't do and what you should do. Pimp are really manipulators, and here she gets in the car and then she's gone.
Well, what can parents do if they find out their child's missing?
Call us right away. Call the local, you know, police department, sheriff's office. It's our job then to contact the National Missing Exploited Children, and they're awesome. These people, they work, and we have a lot of volunteers. They work there. They work with the FBI, and then, you know, they take all the information. They need everything. What the child, if parents remember what the child, and I know it's hard at that time. They need to remember, you know, what they had on, what they were wearing, heights, weight, and it's always good to do that and take pictures, you know, once a month if you have to. But explain everything to the law enforcement, you know, any details. If they have tattoos, because nowadays children have tattoos when they're 15, 16 years old. So explain everything. And then what our job is then, we contact them, you know, missing and exploited children service, and they put everything in the system. They make posters right away, and then they shoot information and everything, you know, that we need to NCIC, and it's a computer system that all law enforcement has, and hoping to find real quick this child. So
yes, because time.
Yeah,
in most
time
cases,
matters.
Time is of the essence. I mean, the further we go down that pendulum of not finding that person, the chances drop off drastically after so many hours. But other things that will help law enforcement when you report it to them. I know with children is, in my household, we have the policy where I have every one of my kids' passwords and written down, and they're sealed. I don't have to, you know, seal them. They put them in an envelope. You know, I'm not going to get on your account and look, but if for some reason something happens and law enforcement shows up, here's, you know, it's a lot quicker for us to get into that account to see who they had last contact with, that type of stuff. You know, and you should do it anyways. It should be a safety precaution as parents. You know, you shouldn't allow your child to have run of the internet, and you'll know some of those signs. Number one, you know, when you're coming from one room to another room, and all of a sudden, boop, the little window goes down, or you get that. You know what I'm talking about. There's problems there, and you need to control it, and you need to get it nipped in the butt right away, because if you don't, you're going to have some issues. You know, believe it or not, like Facebook accounts and stuff like that. I think you're probably the same way, but actually, all my kids have me as their friends, so I know what's going on. I just did it with my youngest one the other night. I said, it's time for me to check your list. Who are all your friends? Who's this person?
Delete.
I don't know. Sorry. Click. You know, they're gone. I mean, you block them. So it's your computer, it's your house. set down some rules, and I think once you set them down and you do them and follow through with them, there won't be any problems. I think they'll know what to come to expect.
See,
So-
we're the parents. We're supposed to have control over these children.
That's right.
We're the parents.
Exactly.
We're the ones that's supposed to teach them. I don't expect, like the Fulton County juvenile judge, to raise my child. I don't expect that. He is the judge. If there is a big problem, you know, make the gentleman's life a little easier because he has to deal with a lot of juveniles that are unruly. He does. I give him credit. But it's not a probation officer's job. It's not the judge's job. It's the parent's job. Another thing that parents can do, you can buy the Net Nanny. You can buy that, and it controls everything. You can see all the chats and everything your child's doing. If you can't afford to buy the Net Nanny, there is a K9 web protection. K9 is K and then the number 9. And this protects your children. Like, I can read you some of the stuff. It has like 69 programs that you can actually, you know, do with your computer. And I can read you some of them. This website's blocked by category, including pornography and illegal drugs, personal dating, violence, hate, racism. Easy to set levels to choose from depending on the age of your children. Safe search enable on all search engines to show cleaner and search results. Time restriction, including night guard. This allows internet access during designated time. Now, I want to mention this. You can actually set this, like, let's say you don't want your child, you only want your child to go from 7 in the evening till 9 in the evening on the internet. It will shut off right there after that. It's really nice. So, and you control the time that you want, you know, block or unblock or whatever with your child. Customs always allows and always blocks. List from your personal preferences. Ability to override a block with the parent's password. See, parents have control again. Temper resistance for more savvy kids. Reports showing activity to categories of websites. Real-time categorization of new websites. And compatible with Windows and Mac machines. So there's no excuse for the parents not to do it. And it's free. See, it says free on here. So it's...
Yeah, another site I ran across that is maybe not quite as detailed as that one, but it's NetSmarts.
Yes. Yes, very good site too.
www.netsmartz.org.
Right.
And
Well,
that looked like a pretty good site too.
What I tell, you know, and I go to schools and do presentations. A lot of schools invite us, and I do presentation for the Violent Crime Against Children Task Force. I tell children, if you have a Facebook account, don't put your personal pictures on there.
Right.
For the simple fact, and even adults, okay, not just children, it's a great way. Because if you go on Facebook, let's mention Facebook, even MySpace, but you go on Facebook, you have a picture, perfect picture of your face, okay? Then it tells you the town you're from, the age, even the birthday. Never put your birthday in. Like mine, I was born in 1905. That's what I put down on mine. I don't give them my birthday because it's very easy to somebody. It's identity theft,
Right.
okay? All they have to do, so they know where you're from, they know how you look like. Well, guess what? It costs only $15 to $20 to get your social security number and all that good stuff, you know, everything. So I always tell parents and children, put your dog's picture on there or put a group pictures of a bunch of people so he doesn't know or she doesn't know who you are. It's very important to do that. Don't advertise, don't pose with a bikini. Boy, that's just not right. I mean, that's not even good because the pimp looks at stuff, you know, if she's having all this, you know, and I wouldn't do that. Make your friends private so no one that comes in your account even, you know, can see who your friends are because that's just click, click, click. They're all young. We know we can get them. So it's very important not to do that. We actually shut down, we actually took a little over 20,000 juvenile off of Facebook because a lot of juveniles says, I'm not 14, I'm not 16, I'm 19, you know. But of course, we're doing our work, the FBI, we go in there, we know, we watch, we observe, and then we know who the children are and not. So we just take them off there, make sure we tell Facebook, hey, this is what's going on, and Facebook takes them off. So they cooperate with us as much as they can.
Yeah. I want to shift gears now and get into possibly something that might be a little, that people might consider a little more local and actually involves our own neighborhoods, and that is sexual molestation of children. What is sexual molestation? So that everybody's clear, we get a clear definition of it. Chief, you can probably give us that.
It has to deal with, well, what we normally deal with is a lot of child molestation, and it's basically inappropriate touching or an actual act with a child's genital areas or their private areas for the purpose of gratifying some type of a sexual desire.
Mm-hmm. What can parents look for as potential signs? Well, let's go back up here and let's, you know, what are the kind of people that we're going to be looking for as far as sexual offenders? You know, the molesters.
It's
and we'll get more into that as far as
you know,
some of that a little bit later.
It's kind of like Agent Norden had said earlier. When you're dealing with pimps, you don't know who they are. Could be anywhere. You know, it could be grandpas, could be uncles, could be your next door neighbor. Males, females.
Just like the mothers in Delta, it was mothers prostituting their children.
Yeah.
You know, so you really don't know. You know, you always see that. You always hear that. Oh, I would have never thought of that person.
Right.
When somebody does get caught, I mean, you always see that. And oh, well, look at the statesman, you know, Wiener. You know, that incident. Yeah. I mean, who would have ever thought? So.
Well, what are signs that parents can look for as far as, you know, if they suspect, or even things to watch for as far as molestation of a child?
There's a lot of things that you can look for. Number one is a change in their behavior. If they become aggressive towards animals, their pets, towards their friends, towards other siblings.
Or they withdraw themselves.
Yes. Yep. Or they return to bedwetting, some thumb sucking, or they revert to, you know, let's say they're 14 or 13 and they revert to, now they're acting like an 8-year-old. Self-mutilation, cutting, hurting themselves, that's a sign, you know, that, you know, obviously some type of help, they want help. Masturbation, aggressive masturbation. Sometimes you'll see a child, you know, playing with themselves, or, you know, when they shouldn't be, you know, age appropriate. You know that, where did somebody at that age learn this? Yeah. That's a good sign. There's just so many signs out there, and the actual act itself, trying to, you know, even though they may not know, the children may not know exactly what it is they are doing, you know, but, you know, crawling on this, for example, you know, two smaller children, you know, one on top of the other one, trying to display some type of a sex act. Again, where would they see it at that age? You know, those are all good signs, and there's many more, but those are just some of them. Okay,
what should a parent do if the child comes to him and says, or if the child says they've been molested, or if they suspect they've been molested?
First of all, you should believe your child. Never say that you don't believe them, and stay calm. Don't overreact, and don't go crazy, because if the child sees you as a parent going crazy, they're going to get scared and feel that they've done something to upset you as a parent or parents, and you know, then may kind of draw back in like a turtle to themselves and say, well, maybe what I said wasn't a good thing and I shouldn't say it anymore. So you want to reassure, listen and believe your child. Do not deny the problem, or do not blame your child. Tell the child, obviously, it's not their fault. You need to contact your local authority, and then they'll probably contact your local children's services, who we work hand in hand with here in Fulton County. Again, do not go confront the perpetrator. Leave that up to, you know, Job and Family Services here in Fulton County, and/or the appropriate agency that's going to be, law enforcement agency that's going to be handling it.
Yeah, the first reaction of a parent is not going to be an appropriate one.
No, it's not.
It might be appropriate, but not exactly legal.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and I deal with that a lot. I mean, I get a lot of angry parents, you know, and it does take time to do the investigations. I know people think that, you know, you watch CSI and you think that, you know, all that stuff's going to happen in a half hour. It's not going to happen in a half hour. You know, for example, here, and sometimes we will issue warrants, but we have grand jury once a month here. We're a rural area, so a lot of times, it takes 3 weeks to get through that investigation, and then get it to the prosecutor, and let them decide where they want to go with it from there. So.
And always talk to your children. Tell them if anything like that ever happens. And we spoke earlier about it, and you said go ahead and say it. If anything happens, make sure you teach your children. Don't say, oh, well, he touched my BB. It's going to make it harder on the investigator. A BB could be anything. A boo-boo can be anything. It's okay to say breast, vagina, butt, and tell the children, if there's anyone ever, and I don't care what he says, because a lot of perpetrators say, if you tell your parents, I'm going to kill you, or if you tell someone, I'm going to make sure I kill your parents, and I got a lot of friends they can take care of. Make sure you tell the kids, don't you worry about me, we'll take care of them.
Right.
Okay, and it's really important to talk to your children. That's what's lacking nowadays. Okay, I know parents are busy. They go to work and to school, and they want to make a better life for the children, but then they neglect their children too at the same time. And it's always good to talk, even if it's at the dinner table. Make some time with your children. When the best thing, what I learned when I drive around with my children, go to the grocery store, a child sometimes doesn't want to look you in the face. Okay, it's just a child. Okay,
Yep.
So I'm driving down the road and I don't talk to them like this. And I'm like, so what happened today? And I tell you, I'll find all kinds of stuff. So I make, if it's very, interesting and important, I make sure I go the longer way because I want to know everything.
Right.
So, but they tell me. But, and I understand some kids are, scared. And some parents weren't taught like that. Be open with your child.
Right.
Talk to your child, okay? So I think it starts in the home. Always starts in the home.
Yeah,
talk to your children.
It's awkward at first, I think, as a parent.
Yeah.
I mean, it was for myself anyways,
Yeah.
Oh, Dad, hey, son, it's time that we have a chat. Oh, no, not this. Here we go. No, but, if you start at a young age, and as Agent Norden said earlier, as investigators, and when you're dealing with it, they need to know the proper name for the body parts. She went over that.
Right.
Don't give it a nickname. Teach your child. They know what the breasts are. They know what the vagina is. What the penis is, the buttocks.
Yeah.
That way, and you tell your child, and as soon as they're old enough to understand, I don't think too early is ever enough. Just
Right.
start talking to them. And like she said, just don't sit them down, embarrass them.
Right.
Talk about it while you're driving, or you're tucking them in at bed at night. Some of the places where they feel a little more relaxed, and the more you talk about it, and you don't do it all at once. You do it over a few weeks. Next thing you know, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You're going to feel comfortable with yourself. The child's going to feel comfortable talking about it, and then you prepare them. You tell them that those are special. You're a special person. Those are your special parts.
Right.
It's all right to say no.
And no one should touch them.
Nobody should touch them.
Yeah, I think that's where the problem comes in sometimes is that parent. I mean, a child can be pretty young and it'll ask, okay, what's this, or
Exactly.
and
Well,
I
they feel-
don't care how old it is, tell them.
Yes.
Use the proper terminology.
Like-
that
like-
way.
Yes.
And I know you're right, because I know when my children were little, and I would change diapers, and my son was like, she doesn't have, and I taught my children from early on what to say. Why doesn't she have a penis? So I had
Right.
to explain it.
Yep.
He was almost, 3. He was 3 years old, a little, like 3 years and 4 months, and I explained to him this and that. I mean, and you know what? They're not shy. They're not shy to talk about it. I remember when they had like sex education in school, a lot of children would laugh and giggle, and they're just like, gee, it's
Here we
just
go.
normal.
Because they're embarrassed.
Yeah, and you can tell who's talking to the children and who's not.
Yeah.
So everybody was like, oh, I can't believe you just said that, the teacher. Teachers are good, and they're trying to teach our children, but
Right.
I think sex education should come a little early in the schools. That's my opinion, because it's very important nowadays.
But yeah, I agree with you that it should come as early as possible, and I mean, people are just embarrassed to speak of it. Parents think that, oh, if I'm teaching my kids these names, vagina and penis, I'm approving that they can go out and say it or they can go out and do it. No,
Right.
no, you're just teaching them the correct name for their body parts, and so they know, and if someone, they come up and tell their teacher, somebody touched my whatever, at least I mean, versus that, or they touched my penis, so.
Now, how crucial is medical care in something in a case of abuse like that? You know, where you at least suspect that the actual act has occurred.
We would recommend that, you know, obviously you go to your nearest local hospital and be checked out by a doctor, and they have SANE nurses that are available that are trained specifically for sexual abuse complaints, you know, and then there's younger ones, there's pediatric ones, and there's older ones for older girls, you know, and like I said, most of the hospitals in the area work very well together. If they don't have a SANE nurse on staff, normally they'll ask you to go to, you know, somewhere. They'll call another hospital and say, hey, do you happen to have a SANE nurse for pediatric on call?
And another thing, if your child was molested or anything, don't give them a shower before you go to the doctor. Because, you know, we need all that DNA and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very important. Don't wash them up. The doctor is used to anything. I mean, they're you know, they see everything. They see the worst. So don't wash them up down, you know, at vagina or penis. Don't do all that stuff because we need that DNA.
Yeah, one thing I've read and heard repeatedly that's very important is to, you know, reassure them it's not their fault.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh,
It
yeah.
isn't.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, because first of all, you know, if the perpetrator did make the threat, you know, I'm going to hurt mommy or I'm going to hurt daddy, I mean, can you imagine the pressure that's playing on the child? You know what I'm saying? And then again, mom gets hysterical or dad gets hysterical, and I'm going to go do something to that so-and-so, and now, okay, he's going to kill him. They're getting mad. I've done something bad. No, you didn't do anything bad. You did the right thing, you know, by coming forward.
Or even if it wasn't under threat like that, but somebody says, you know, keep a secret.
Yes.
You know, keep a secret.
Yep.
You
Secret
know, it'll
between
be our
us all.
little secret, you know.
No, there's no
And,
secrets.
secrets aren't always good.
No,
Right.
no. Yeah.
Alex, we had talked earlier about how you came and talked to my mentoring group,
Yes.
and I know you went into a little bit of it. Is there anything more that you'd like to add? You know, that parents should really be sure of telling their kids, you know, to keep them safe.
Yeah, like I said earlier, make sure, you know, you want to be a parent, but at the same time, you want to feel almost like a friend that the child can say anything to you without being embarrassed or scared. Why do you want to scare your own child? You know, in that day when I came to your church, I said so much, and the children, they were so surprised. And I went through scenarios like, you know, hey, these guys can be sex offenders, can be at a child's park. They're not supposed to be at, you know, near a school, near a child, and the chief can tell you about how many feet and all that stuff. So, and I went through the scenario. I was like, hey, you like my puppy? I had a little puppy. And she says, yes. And I told her, you want to pet my puppy? And she's like, sure. As soon as she pet the puppy, I grabbed her hand and I pulled her. That scared the living hell out of her. I probably shouldn't have said that.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
But it scared her, and I'm like, you see, this is how close. This is what they do. The perpetrators, they have something nice. The pimps have something nice that the girl wants. You know, like the bling blings, the clothes, and the makeup, and all the luxury. And then they lure these kids by saying, you can have this. You know, if you're with me, and you know, who doesn't like a cute puppy?
Sure.
You know, so I taught these little girls. I didn't go into the details with with pimps and prostitutions and stuff like that because they were a little bit too young. But I showed them, don't talk to strangers. If they have a candy, that's why the word the candy man, you know, is around. So don't take anything from strangers. And and if soon somebody is doing that and trying to talk to you, scream stranger danger. But and I tell them, don't scream it because it's funny. Okay, because all the people turn around and are like, ooh, and if nothing happened, then they're not going to help.
Peter and the Wolf.
Exactly, Peter and the Wolf. So it's very important to tell the children, don't take anything from strangers. And a lot of girls and boys ask me, well, how about Halloween? All right, who is with you at Halloween if you're that age? Mom and dad should be with you, or the older siblings. And when I say older, they're 17, 18, they ought to know. Don't eat the candy till we have a check by the fire departments. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
So you pretty much, you know, like I said earlier, you're the parent, you're in control. You can't expect the court system to raise your children. You can't do that. Okay, in the good old days, who raised the children? The parents. I thought we all turned out pretty good. So,
and it is difficult with you know, most parents having to work, you know, both be in the workplace, and so it ends up a lot of times that that daycares are you know, doing a lot of the raising of the kids, but you know, that still doesn't preclude the necessity of the parents being involved in their children's lives as much as possible.
Yes, agreed.
And even us as grandparents need to step in sometimes and make sure that some of those things are being done.
Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of parents, and I hear this a lot, okay, when I used to be a police officer, I heard this a lot. Well, you know, this new law doesn't allow us to spank our children to you know. No, it does not. The law doesn't say you're not allowed to spank your children. You're allowed to spank your children. You're just not allowed to beat on your children, leave bruises, marks, or kill them or choke them. I mean, anything like that. Right. So it's all right to, you know, whoop them on the butt. That's what it's there for, I think. But, you know, don't do it excessively and, you know, horribly. So you're in control as the parents.
Let's shift gears again here. We talked about we started talking a little bit about who are the molesters. Chief, you've worked a lot with sex offenders and with I think, as I recall, you telling me the other day that you were the one that registered them for the county. And
yes.
And you know, go into maybe a little more of who are the sex offenders. You know, I think it's so important that we realize that it can be anybody.
Yes, yes, it is. It can be anybody. Currently, I believe we have 54 registered in Fulton County by themselves. Back in 1997, the state of Ohio, I believe it was 97, 98, went to what we called Megan's Law, where people that were convicted of certain sex offenses were required by Ohio law to go register with your local county sheriff's office. And at that point in time, they put them, there were some different levels that they call them. They call them like sexually or habitually oriented, sexually oriented offender, all the way up to what we back then called predator. But they no longer have those. We have tiers now. We now call it the Adam Walsh Act. It's a federal law that state of Ohio has adopted. And we go by tiers, a tier 1, tier 2, and a tier 3. Obviously, tier 1 being the lowest, and tier 3 being the highest. And obviously, the tiers, tier 1 is like a 15-year registration where the individual, the person comes in and verifies his address with me once a year. The tier 2 comes in twice a year, and then the tier 3, which is the highest one, those type of people come in and verify their address every 3 months with me.
Let's get into a little bit of what constitutes a tier 1 offense, tier 2 offense, and tier 3 offense.
What they have broke down is basically they're just the 2907 section, which is the sex section of the Ohio Revised Code. Basically, they just took it, tore it apart, and they list, okay, a tier 1 is this, and they put in the ORC, which are like misdemeanor offenses, would be like a tier 1. You know, and obviously if you have a rape or a sexual battery or an ag murder with sexual motivation, you know, you start getting to some more of your aggressive stuff, then you move up the ladder to the tier 3. In the middle of the row, things like pandering, obscenity involving minors, possession of that type of stuff will get you put into the middle, you know, the tier 2. Compelling prostitution, gross sexual imposition, child endangerment, kidnapping with sexual motivation. So there's just, like I said, you go to that 2907 section on the Ohio Revised Code, and then it will break it down for you. And I believe it's even on the Ohio Attorney General website. They'll actually put out what those are for you. So basically, but the reason they had done this went to the 3-tier system was because Ohio had their own labels from 97 until about 2008, 9, and it was very confusing for if somebody moved out of Michigan to Ohio, or if somebody moved from Ohio to Michigan, Michigan would call me and say, well, we don't have those names up here. We have this, this, and this. Where do I put them at? So what the federal government has tried to do is make United States wide, if you're tier 1 in California or wherever it may be, when you come to Fulton County and register, I know where to put you at. You're a tier 1. So
It's a uniform system.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So,
well, you mentioned 50-some sex offenders in Fulton County, registered sex offenders.
correct.
How does a person go about finding where they're at?
There's a couple ways you can do it. There's several websites you can Google, or you can go to the Fulton County Sheriffs Office website, and I would recommend that because there's some very important areas on that website. And you just go to www.fultoncountyohio.com and just go under the elected officials tab, and once you get there, and then click on the sheriff, and that will take you to the home page. And once you get to the home page, on the left-hand side, there'll be some different tabs on the left. You want the one in blue. It says sex offenders.
It does stand out.
Yeah. and you click on that, and now we had mentioned, and you're more than welcome to call the office. I'd be glad to walk anybody through it because there's a lot of questions that can be answered on that website versus calling somebody there at the office. Or if I'm not in, nobody has the answer, then you may not call back. But anyways, click on that blue tab, sex offender search, and then it will take you to some other areas there. But anyways, you can search for an offender in your area just by putting in the zip code or Wasion, or you can put in the Delta 43515, and it will search and give you the registered offenders in that area.
It even has the pictures, I believe.
Yes, it will have the pictures and the
faces
offenses that they've been charged with. And like I said, you can even sign up for an email alert at that time, which is a good tool for parents to use to keep their children safe. And again, it's a radius thing. You can go as far out as you want. You sign up, okay, I want to be, when an offender lives or moves in or is going to register a new address within so many feet of me or half a mile, I want an email alert sent to me from the state of Ohio or from the Sheriff's Office website, and then you'll get an alert via the email once we get one that registers that within. So it's a very good, there's a lot of good tools on there. Again, if you get to that website or have problems getting to that website, call the office. I'd be glad to go over it with you on the phone, and we'll figure out what's going wrong, because I know you said you had just a little bit of an issue the other day trying to get through to it. But
we talked about a PowerPoint presentation,
yes.
and I couldn't seem to get to that point.
Yeah, there is one on there. Trust me, I ran it. If not, I have the PowerPoint. I can, we can do it at another time. But so it's a very good system. Again, it gets hard for the offenders themselves at some points, because you get smaller villages or towns like let's say Pettysville or Fayette. The offenders aren't allowed to live within 1,000 feet of a school. Okay, well, 1,000 feet's a little less than a quarter of a mile, so a quarter of a mile you're through that town. So I mean, so and then and a lot of people, I get a lot of questions about, well, I got an offender that lives over there and he's within 1,000 feet. Well, that may be true. What has happened in some of those cases, the laws have continued to change since 1997, 98 as we go along. So when the laws come out in 98, okay, let's say that there weren't any prohibited distances. They didn't say anything about living near a school or a preschool. So in 2003, they decided to make a new law, and now if you're convicted of a sex offense, okay, you got to stay within or away within 1,000 feet of a school. Well, all those people from 97 to 2003, the Supreme Court says, okay, they don't apply to them, which I understand. That does not apply to them. So there may be a registered offender that's living there, but it's probably because the offense took place prior to 2003. Then again in 2005, they added the preschool wording in there, 1,000 feet of a preschool. So that changes. So now you're looking at 3 different scenarios. So if you were convicted before 03 or after 03, but before 05, you can't live within 1,000 feet of a school, but you can live near a preschool. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration when looking at this.
Now, suppose a parent goes on the website, sees sees some of the offenders, and they're at a park with their child, and they see one of these offenders in the park. What should they do?
I wouldn't do anything any different. Just go about your own business. As long as you're aware of it, there's nothing, I don't have the crystal ball that says what's going to happen next or whether an offender will reoffend.
Yeah.
I do not know that. Just go on about your own business. Be aware that they're there, and which brings up another good point. Don't be afraid to, I don't want you to scare children, but don't be afraid to educate them on who's living in the neighborhood, what I'm saying? And obviously you don't want your children, you could show them pictures of them and say, this is Joe Blow or whoever, what I'm saying, he lives over on, I want you to, if you feel you want them to avoid that property or come home a different way, then that's fine, then let's do it, you can do it that way. And the other thing is, they are human too, they have paid their debts to society, so you don't want, kids going down there and creating problems, for them out front or calling them names or, aggravating the situation. So.
What kind of rate of repeating do you see in sex offenders? Is there any kind of standard rate that, or percentage that's been given?
There probably is. I do not know that right offhand, but the ones that we're dealing with as we speak now, it's a low percentage in our area, but that doesn't mean you get to the big places like Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, where they got 3,000 registered offenders versus 54. What I'm saying? So again, I don't know, don't have that, don't know who would offend again, or even if they would. So.
One of the things that we need to be aware of, if a child has been molested, it's important not only to report it and get that in the works, but also it's important to get the proper help for that child.
Yes.
And I know we had talked about the other day about the Family Justice Center.
Yes.
I think Children's Protective Services is probably another one.
They're very helpful. They helped us in many cases. Yes.
Another one that I'm very familiar with, and I know they do this type of counseling as well, is Shalom Ministries, which is just over in Archbold. They've got a fantastic counseling system, and many of these, if you're worried about, if you as parents are worried about costs, they have a sliding scale.
Yes. Yes.
Because their concern is that the person gets the help they need without necessarily worrying about the cost.
Yes. Yes.
Because that is usually a major concern with some people. So
with the prostitution, with the Violent Crime Against Children Task Force, we actually have, when we find a child, or even adults, we can't turn people away. We know that these adults were lured when they were children, like I mentioned before. So we have a victim specialist. She's from the Cleveland office, Jennifer Meyer, and she actually comes out here, and she's a victim specialist for anything, bank robbery, anytime they need this, and the FBI is very willingly to let her, come over. She's very good in what she does, well trained. We're all trained. I mean, the FBI wants to make sure that we are trained in whatever we do. They don't want us to make any mistakes. So, like I said, she's trained in all that stuff. But I worked with the Victim Justice Center here. Heather Gilbert, she's really good. Gilbert, yeah. I have always a problem saying her name. But she's awesome. I mean, she helped us out so much. Child and Family Services, great people. Another thing, the schools have counselors. So I would like, if your child had a problem, and let's say they can't speak to the parents, make sure, tell them if you have ever any problems, even with bullies. I mean, it's not just sex, offender stuff, but tell the counselor. They're trained for it. They're all trained for it, and it's free. It's free. I mean, and we got great counselors in every school in the area. And let's not forget, I know we're speaking here about Fulton County, but we have them everywhere.
Right.
The sex offenders, the prostitutions that goes on, the pimps. They're in Henry County, Williams County, everywhere. So And my the task force that I am on, we do this nationwide. The task force that I'm on, we do it Northwest Ohio. I mean, this is how many areas we have to cover. It's not just Fulton County. So don't think just because you live in Fulton County you're a bad person. Or, you know,
or that you're immune. Because
Oh, yeah, we're not immune at
Yeah.
all. I mean, geez, you know. And another thing, if people, let's say they see that in the area, and I would like to add this, they see, you know, traveling, how do you know what's going on in your neighborhood? For instance, the sting operation that we did in Delta and in Fayette, the neighbors were like, oh gosh, if I would have known this was going on, I would have, you know, we saw people coming in and out, but we didn't think of nothing. Yeah, there was a lot of partying and all that stuff. Of course it's going to look like a lot of partying. So there, we have, at Fulton County Sheriff's Office, we have a 1-800, it's a Crime Stopper, 1-800 number that you can call, and it's anonymous. You don't have to tell us your name. It's a tip. A tipster doesn't have to tell us their name. And the number I would like to give the public, it's 1-800-255-1122. Again, 1-800-255-1122. And just tell them. The dispatchers will not ask you for your name. If you want to tell your name, that's all up to you. We can't call you back unless you have further information. Keep on calling us because it's all anonymous. And you tell them, I want to stay anonymous, and you will stay anonymous. I always keep my promise. If somebody wants to stay anonymous, they have to stay anonymous. I won't ask any questions because why would I want to drag this person into court and everywhere else? But as long as, see, when they call this number, it's our law enforcement's job to do surveillance, to, you know, investigate this. I mean, this is what we're trained for. And if we don't do it, shame on us, you know, but we do it. We, anytime, you know, people call that line for narcotics or, you know, child abuse, prostitution, anything, robbery, anything, you know, we don't ask no questions. We just go and do our surveillance and our job.
Back to your counseling, which is a major thing in the recovery of these children, or any victim, as far as we're concerned. The state of Ohio feels the same way. They actually, you should receive as a victim a pamphlet called Picking Up the Pieces. It's put out by the Ohio Attorney General's office. If you are a victim, you should receive a pamphlet, you know, whether it's domestic violence, rape, child abuse, or anything like that. And you know, you can apply for assistance that the state of Ohio will actually, they have a fund available that will cover your hospitalization. You know, you shouldn't, if you go out to the hospital to have on a sex abuse case and they do test, you should probably, the way I understand it, never receive a bill.
Good.
But,
Good.
you know what I'm saying, if you do, don't, you know, call, I'll look into it, or call Children's Services, they'll look into it, but you shouldn't ever receive a bill on any type of a case like that. And there is money available, and it's, the information is in those books called Picking Up the Pieces. And I deal with the guy in Columbus a lot, and he calls me on cases that people actually have applied for and says, hey, what do you think, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? Yes, they are in counseling, and we'd love you to cover the cost of that, I mean, or whatever. So, so I think everybody in the community feels, you know, that counseling is a major.
Well, it is, and you know, as a pastor, I run into people, or I have run into people periodically that have been abused as children, never got counseling, and boy, it really creates some issues.
Right.
You know, those things don't go away by themselves, and
could, you know, even after getting married, you know, create issues there with, you know, well, what's going on, you know. If you're not honest
always
with
in the back
yourself,
of your head
yourself or your
Yeah.
significant other,
Yeah.
I mean, how are you ever going to deal with it? So yeah, counseling is a great way to.
well, we're at a point where we need to begin to wrap this up.
Okay.
I'd like to ask either of you if you have any kind of closing comments that you'd like to share.
You know, as Agent Norden said, I mean, it just doesn't affect Fulton County. It affects, it's everywhere. You always heard the phrase, it takes a community to raise a child. Also, I feel it takes a community to protect a child also.
Right.
You know, you're the eyes and ears, the people in Fulton County are the eyes and ears of the things that go on out there. There's only so many of us. I mean, you know, wouldn't you love to have one sitting at your house, one of us, or a police 24/7, your own personal? It can't be that way. There's not enough of us. There's not enough money in the budget to do that. You know, so we always ask the public, you know, when you're driving by and you see something suspicious, don't be afraid to write that plate number down. Or a lot of people call us and say, I really didn't want to bother you, and I should have done it, you know, when we're next door taking a burglary report. You know what I'm saying? And they saw something earlier. Please, please, you're never, ever going to bother the Fulton County Sheriff's Department, call us. If it's, you know, something suspicious going on, we'll come and investigate it, or we'll look into it. And nobody should ever tell you that you're wasting our time.
And the public is our eyes and ears. Without the public, we wouldn't have an office. You know what I mean? I mean, the sheriff is the highest elected law enforcement, and he always, you know, since I started there, he always says, if someone doesn't tell me what the problem is, how can I fix the problem?
That's right.
And you know, and it's honest to God truth. If you tell us, you know, and let's say you don't get nowhere with, you know, the deputies or the police officers, call the sheriff, call the chief and tell him, hey, this is my problem. You know, I haven't heard, you know, I want to know what's going on. And I guarantee you, the chiefs and the sheriff, they'll do anything in their power to help you. I mean, I know my sheriff does, our sheriff does. So, and
well, speaking as a resident of Henry County, I think our sheriff feels the same way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And knowing some of the
every
deputies,
sheriff.
sure
I
they
mean,
do. I
you
mean,
know,
Yeah.
they're elected by the people. I mean,
Yeah.
and you know, the thing with, you know, the children, our sheriff is, you know, he supports everybody. But when it comes to children, you know, he has a soft heart. So, and that's why I think he is so eager to help everyone out, especially.
well, I
kids.
was quite honestly, I was very impressed when we had our meeting the other day, and Sheriff Marilot was in there with us.
He gets very involved. He's a
that-
working sheriff.
yeah.
He doesn't sit in the office much. So,
So that, you know, one thing I was going to mention earlier, and I didn't, but that is that one of the reasons I feel so strongly about this is that we as pastors, other professionals, you know, we have an obligation to report
correct.
things
Yes.
like this.
Yes.
correct.
And you know, I think it's good for us to be reminded of that.
Yep. It's
That-
easy to lose sight of that once
Yeah,
in a while.
we need, if we come across an incident, we need to report it, and you know, it may involve stepping on some toes, but
Yep.
hey, that's it might save a child. So
There's several churches that they've been helping us, you know, like for these girls that we find. They even made us little packages, because when we get these victims, you know, they're used for prostitution. Sometimes they have very little clothes on because the pimp won't,
Right.
you know, the less clothes, the better is the money for them. So they don't get to keep their money to buy clothes. They have to, everything, all the proceedings go to the pimp. So we have, you know, a lot of places helping us out, you know, here and there. So.
one thing I want to do just before we totally wrap it up. You had mentioned you had some letters from some of the victims.
Right, and
Why don't you share a couple of them with us?
and a lot of people think, you know, they're just prostitutes. And I don't want to mention the names, but you know, they're bad people. They're not bad people. Like I said earlier, they're being forced, coerced, you know, tortured into this business. They get burned. I had a victim. She was pregnant, 6 months pregnant. The pimp was sitting on her back. Like I said, I took pictures of her, and she had burned. Well, she had these round circles all over her back and cuts. And I was like, whoa, what did you do? And she was like, I didn't want to, I wasn't feeling good. I didn't eat for a couple of days. And, you know, the pimp, he, you know, threw me down, sat on me, and burned his cigar on him. And then he cut her. And then he poured vinegar and salt in the wound. So this is what these girls, and she still didn't get nothing to eat because she didn't want to perform. If these girls don't bring $1,000 to $1,500 a night home, they don't get to eat, they don't get to come home. So, and these are from little girls that were used in sex trafficking. One of them says, and she drew a picture, look in my eyes and try to feel my pain, and this is what she drew. And another little, you know, poem, it says, the girl who seemed unbreakable broke, the girl who seemed strong crumbled, the girl who always laughed cried, the girl who never stopped trying finally gave up. She dropped a fake smile as a tear ran down her cheek, and she whispered to herself, I can't do this anymore. That's another one. Another one, a lot of girls, you know, if mom was a victim of prostitution, she teaches her children it's okay to be slapped around by a man. That's not okay. And another letter from another girl says, I ran up the stairs as my aunt gets beaten by her husband. all the kids start to cry. As I was running, my cousin was behind me. I think to myself, is this what drinking does to you? The cops was called and he went to jail, but not for long. She told us she loves him and he was, you know, the baby's daddy. Then he was out, and again the beating started. It's keep happening over and over again. As a young child, my mom and my aunt taught us it was okay for a man to hit you. And in my mind, I know it wasn't right. These children know it's not right, but they're being forced to do what they need to do. You know, and there is another story here. My story, when I sit here and think, God, why is my guess? I love all three, and two of them hurt me so bad. When she says all three, she's talking about God and mom and dad, okay? Two of them hurt me so bad that every time I look in their eyes, I want to cry, don't stop. The other one I love, but it's confused about how to feel about me. And I feel like all three are trying to be with me. God, what should I do? God, look me in my eyes and try to feel my pain. But no one really wants to hear all this. And everyone is starting to think I'm a bad person, but they don't understand my life and feels. My daddy don't know me. My mommy doesn't care. I don't matter. It don't matter if I'm here. It don't matter if I'm there. A lot of the time, I want to give up. So God, why?
You know, those stories should make us really aware. You know, there's people out there being hurt, being abused, being forced into things that they shouldn't ever have to do. So I'd like to thank Chief Deputy Miller and Agent Norden for being with me today. I hope this time has been beneficial to you. I hope it's opened some of your eyes like it has mine. If you have any questions about what you've seen today, or if you suspect someone of being a victim of abuse or even being an abuser, you know, please call the authorities. One statement that I read said, always remember, a child can never consent. These are crimes against children. And so for Chief Miller and Agent Norden, I'm Pastor Ben Schaefer. Please help keep our children safe.